I get it, you're staring at a mountain of mount options online, wondering if you should drop a few $100s on a German Equatorial system that promises professional-grade tracking, but you're not ready to gamble on something that might end up gathering dust in the garage. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. It's that moment when you're about to buy a mount that could make or break your first deep sky session, and you wish you could get a quick, honest rundown before you hand over the cash. When I first started looking at the Celestron Advanced VX, the biggest question in my head was simple. Will this thing actually hold my 10-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain steady long enough to capture a clean nebula, or will it wobble the moment I try a longer exposure? The hesitation most new owners feel isn't about the specs on paper, it's about the day-to-day grind. Unpacking a 47-pound kit, leveling the tripod on uneven backyard grass, polar aligning under a light-polluted sky, and then actually tracking something for 10 minutes without the motor stutter you see in cheap mounts. If you've ever tried to set up a heavier mount with a flimsy tripod and watched it tip like a seesaw, you know why those concerns matter. German Equatorial mounts, GEMs, are the workhorse of amateur astrophotography because they can follow the Earth's rotation on a single axis, which means smoother long-exposure tracking compared to Altaz platforms. The Advanced VX sits in the middle of Celestron's lineup. It's not the entry-level Star Sense, but it's also not the ultra-high-end CGX. The key selling points are its 30-pound payload, the 2-inch stainless steel tripod legs, and the Nexstar Plus hand controller loaded with a database of over 40,000 objects. Those sound great on a product page, but let's break down what they mean when you actually get it out of the box. First off, the payload. A 30-pound limit means you can comfortably mount most mid-sized telescopes, think 8 to 10-inch SCTs, 6 to 8-inch Newtonians, and even some heavier refractors with a lightweight focuser. I've paired the Advanced VX with a 9.25-inch Edge HD, and the mount held firm even when I nudged the tube a bit to adjust focus. The 2-inch stainless legs feel solid. They don't flex noticeably under that weight, which translates into less vibration during tracking. For anyone who's tried a cheaper mount and noticed a jittery star field after a minute, that stability is a real advantage. The latitude adjustment range of 7 to 77 degrees covers most of the continental United States, so you won't be wrestling with a clamp that refuses to go low enough for southern targets like the Large Magellanic Cloud. The range is also handy if you travel north for a dark sky weekend and need a quick tweak without swapping out hardware. That said, the adjustment mechanism is a simple knob that can feel a bit gritty after repeated use. It's not a deal breaker, but you'll want to keep it clean and occasionally lubricated if you notice stiffness. Portability is another practical concern. At 47 pounds, the whole kit is heavy enough that you'll need a decent vehicle and at least 2 people to load it into the trunk. Once assembled, the legs can be collapsed to about 38 inches high, which makes it manageable on a rooftop balcony, but you shouldn't expect to pack it into a small SUV and hike up a remote site without a dolly. If you're the type who likes to drive 100 miles to a dark site and set up in under an hour, you'll need to budget extra time for the physical effort. In contrast, a lighter Altaz mount can be set up by one person in minutes, but you'll lose the precise tracking needed for long exposures. The Nexstar Plus hand controller is where the Advanced VX earns points for usability. The database of 40,000 objects means you can point the scope at Messier 51 or the Andromeda Galaxy with just a few button presses, and the controller will guide the mount through the necessary alignment steps. The interface isn't a touchscreen, but the scroll wheel and backlit display work fine even after dark. One practical tip: spend a few minutes familiarizing yourself with the Align menu before you head out, because a good polar alignment can shave minutes off your total setup time. The controller also offers sidereal, solar, and lunar tracking rates, so you can switch from a planetary session to a solar eclipse without swapping hardware. Now for the trade-offs. The Advanced VX lacks an integrated polar scope, so you'll need an external one or rely on a drift alignment method. That adds a small but noticeable step for beginners. Balancing the telescope on the RA and deck axis is also a bit of a learning curve. If the weight distribution isn't spot on, the motor can strain, leading to tracking errors that show up as star trails in your images. I've found that using the built-in counterweights helps, but you still have to spend a few minutes each night to get the balance just right. It's not a problem if you're already comfortable with the balancing ritual, but it's